Warning, warning, warning. Hurricane Katrina has made landfall.
Coming to you live from SMA, Hurricane Katrina has rampaged through the local area. Hurricanes are fascinating but dangerous natural disasters that can reach speeds up to 185 miles per hour.
If you are not careful, you can be in serious danger. It is almost impossible to survive without the proper gear.
Hurricanes begin as tropical storms over warm and moist water. As the moisture evaporates, it rises until huge amounts of heated moisture air are high in the atmosphere. The winds begin to circle. Low pressure systems spin counterclockwise above the equator and high pressure systems spin clockwise below the equator. High pressure brings cool and dry weather, while low pressure brings wet and moist weather. Around the center, the eye, winds move at a speed between 74 and 200 miles per hour. As long as the hurricane remains over water that is 79 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer near the equator, it continues to pull moisture from the surface and grow in size and force. When a hurricane hits land or colder water, it loses its source of fuel and its winds will slow until it is no longer classified as a hurricane, which is winds less than 74 miles per hour. In case of Hurricane Katrina, the trade winds were the global winds which affected the path of the natural disaster. Trade winds can also affect North America and can affect Texas. The trade winds travel from left to right. Hurricane Katrina was created by a tropical wave meeting the remains of an older tropical depression.
We'll be back after the break.
Do you want a cool sea breeze on a hot day or a land breeze on a cool day? Land breezes bring cool air to the direction of the water. Sea breezes take the cool air and move it towards the land. For only a cheap price of 12 hours, you can experience sea breezes at daytime or land breezes at night. You don't want any fronts. Weather before a cold front is warm. During a cold front, there are thunderstorms followed by cooler weather. Warm fronts have cooler weather before it starts. During the front, light rain occurs followed by warmer weather.
We are at the scene of the disaster along with the witness. Tell us about your experience, sir.
Hurricane Katrina wasn't the strongest hurricane to hit landfall, but it was extremely destructive. It was destructive partially because the leaves around New Orleans failed. The winds were too strong. They were so strong, it made my tree tip over. And the high winds destroyed houses all around the neighborhood. Not to mention the flooding, which contributed to the destruction, which have been even more powerful than the wind.
How long did their terrible disaster last?
The hurricane lasted for about 8 days, but it lasted on land for only 6 hours. Still, the time felt like ages. I had to evacuate as soon as I heard the warning.
And anything else?
The tide was bigger than normal. I believe it is called a storm surge. The water was about 8 yards higher than the surface. I thank God there was not a full new moon. Otherwise, the storm surge would have been higher due to spring tides. It was only a waning crescent.
Well, thank you for sharing your interesting perspective on the topic.
There are wind systems called global winds which are located all around Earth. The cool air is denser than the warmer air and sinks. This creates a convection cell and helps with the formation of wind. The warmer water is near the equator and the cooler water is near the poles. Even though it may seem cool near the poles, it is cooler below the surface of the water. Even under the really warm water, there is cooler water underneath. This was brought to you by
Interested in conduction, convection, or radiation? Buy one today. Radiation is the emission of energy as electromagnetic waves. Radiation can lead to the heating of cold water. Convection is the movement caused within a fluid by the tendency of hotter and less dense materials to rise and cooler, denser materials to sink. This will make the heated up of water rise. Conduction is the process by which energy is directly transmitted through a substance. The water can cause precipitation, and we, our bodies, transfer heat to the rain or snow, for example. Only 3 light years each.
Direct and indirect sunlight can cause uneven heating of the earth. The sun warms up parts of the oceans. Warm waters rise just like warm air rises. So As the warmer ocean waters begin to rise in a particular area, the cooler ocean waters from a different area will move on into replace warmer ocean waters, and this creates our ocean currents.
The Gulf Stream current is warm while the California current is cold. The Gulf Stream travels north and the California current travels south. The Gulf Coast affects hurricanes in the East Coast. Surface currents are formed from friction between the wind and the surface of the ocean. They affect storms because the wind makes the current travel and increases the chances of a storm occurring. In the Pacific Ocean, El Niño and La Niña can be found. El Niño is warmer waters and La Niña is cooler water.